Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Reviews. Today I'll be talking about Salt and Sanctuary on the Nintendo Switch, and probably rambling off on a bunch of tangents, as I tend to do. To start, the words Souls-like and Metroidvania get tossed around a lot these days, but Salt and Sanctuary is truly the most Souls-like Metroidvania that I have ever played, for whatever that's worth, because I'm not a big Souls-like player, to put it lightly. So in actuality, that doesn't mean a whole lot, but it definitely screams those. Like, if there's a game that's worthy of that combination of genres, like, this is very near the top of the list, if not at the top of the list. Now, I should mention that while I love Castlevania, my preference is for the more linear games in that series, which came previous to the infamous Symphony of the Night. Hence, my extreme love for Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, which I have a review of here on this channel that you should absolutely check out if you haven't already, or if you don't know much about that game, you definitely should. Now, Symphony of the Night was literally a game changer, which I absolutely loved at the time. But with all of the games in that series released for the Game Boy Advance and then the DS, I feel like that style of Castlevania was kind of done to death, despite the fact that all of those games, or definitely most of them, were actually, very good. But I just got to the point where enough is enough for me, and then on the Switch, the market is absolutely saturated with quote, Metroidvanias. So the subgenre has really lost its novelty for me. Like, it seemed really fresh back in 1997, and, today it's just, whether you like it or you don't, I think you'd be hard-pressed to call it a fresh take. It's not a fresh take. It's been done and done and done again. Anyway, as for the other major influence of Salt and Sanctuary, which would be Dark Souls, just to put it concisely, it has never really been my thing. I've messed around with it a little bit. I thought it was all right, but it just didn't grab me, I guess, the way that it clearly does for a lot of people. I am, however, a huge fan of the developer Ska Studios, and their previous work. And if you don't know Ska Studios, I think they have a great story. It started as just one guy up in Washington State, James Silva, and has since expanded to also include his wife. And that is the whole company. All of their games that I've played feature an incredibly dark tone, while also featuring like a silly or playful side that, and I would say that I identify with this tonal combination greatly. It just really, sparks something for me. They also feature an art style which is distinctive and recognizable. They're responsible for what is, in my opinion, one of the greatest beat-em-ups ever created, and that's a game called Charlie Murder for the Xbox 360 Live Arcade. And whether or not that's still playable on current Xbox systems, I couldn't tell you. The 360 is the last Xbox console that I have owned, although that very well may change when the Fable reboot is released. So anyways, in addition to Ska Studios' unique visual presentation, their audio has always been on point, in my opinion, with crunchy sound effects and incredible soundscapes crafted by the scores to their games. The score here is on par with their previous work, in my opinion, meaning that it's pretty excellent. I do feel that the default audio balancing favors the sound effects maybe a little too much, and making the score feel like it's a little too far in the background for my liking. Fortunately, this can be adjusted in the options. Visually, Salt and Sanctuary carries the signature Ska Studios art style to an extreme that I find slightly unfortunate. And so what I mean is, look, it's rare that I say this about a game because I love dark, but it's too dark. As in, at times, you can't really see what the bleep is going on. It kind of reminds me of that one episode in the last season of Game of Thrones that had like the exact same problem. I remember thinking, this seems like an awesome idea for an episode if I could see it. So anyway, look, I basically had the same view here with Salt and Sanctuary at times, which is unfortunate. It's still playable, but it's just, I think it's darker at times than it needs to be. But on to the gameplay. This game is frickin' difficult, as I suppose a Souls-like should be. That's kind of part of the package, right? And for some people, part of the appeal. So as a Souls-like, it does feature plenty of dodge rolling, blocks and parries, stamina-based combat, etc. But if you Google Salt and Sanctuary, this game supposedly takes 23 hours to finish, but my first playthrough took me 35. Just something to be aware of there. And it was a long and difficult 35 hours. And that wasn't even like an attempt at completionism at all. That was just me getting to the end of the game, 35 hours. So, am I worse at this than your average player? I mean, possibly, because like I said, I don't really play Souls games. So it's just a little bit out of my wheelhouse. But, be prepared for the fact that it could take you considerably longer than the estimates that are available online. And so I have to say, once I finish this game, no spoilers, okay, I'm not going to ruin anything, that's not my style, but I will say that it felt like an extremely unceremonious ending to a long and difficult game. It was, the ending is not the most important thing in the world, right? The gameplay is, however... Come on, man. That's all I'm going to say about that week ending. So look, I've already been talking for a little while here. I'm not going to take a deep dive into every aspect and system of this game. Rather, I'm just going to talk about a few of the kind of major make or break issues for me, which is, more or less what I've been doing so far. And maybe the last of which would be that it does not have a map of any kind. And I think the last Metroidvania that I can remember playing that didn't have a map was the original Metroid. And I just feel like if ever there was a game that should absolutely have a map and doesn't, this is it. This is absolutely it. Many of the screens start to feel a little bit samey. And a map would have not only been helpful, but in my opinion, it would have made the game much more enjoyable. Because like when I say samey, I mean, the backgrounds start to look the same or similar at least. And even the platform placement, if that makes sense, within a room, in some cases will be either similar or exactly the same. And it's just kind of a mess as far as navigation goes. It's just a bit sloppy for my taste. Unlike most Metroidvanias, Salt and Sanctuary features a number of character classes and a straight-up insanely extensive skill tree. So if that's a big ticket item for you, if that's an important feature, like this game definitely has that. My first playthrough, I started as a paladin. I never really developed my healing skills or anything. I was just straight up sword and shield. But you can go in as an assassin, you can be a mage, you can be a healer, etc. And how you develop your character will greatly impact how you play this game. And for that matter, how difficult it is and in what ways it is difficult. So in a lot of these respects, I feel like Mr. and Mrs. Silva and Ska Games probably produced exactly what they were shooting for. The only thing for me is it's not my thing. Like I said, basically it comes down to if this sounds appealing to you. I got it on a sale. I would recommend doing the same. Or honestly, if you're not sure about it, if you're not a big Souls player, then honestly, this may not be the game for you. Once I finished it, I kind of started a second playthrough. I wasn't really having that much fun with it, and I, deleted it from my system to free up a little bit of space. There are a lot of reasons that Salt and Sanctuary should be right up my alley. Like, there's a lot about this game that says, hey, this is my kind of game. But do I actually recommend it? As the years go by, I find myself becoming more and more jaded. Impossibly jaded. And I have to say, no, I don't think I recommend this game. If you're a Souls-like fan, maybe this game is for you, but it's not really for me. Souls-like to me always feels frustratingly difficult, as opposed to games like Valfaris or AVGN, which are absolutely brutal, but mostly left me feeling like, okay, one more try. I can do this. I got this. Let me get back in there. Let me do this again. Let me do this better. Souls-like games, I know that for a lot of people, Souls-like games have that effect, and that's what they love about them. There's just something about it that they don't do that for me. They just piss me off when I get killed. Now, I will say this, going back to cost for a minute, if you're going to wait for a sale, I will say that Salt and Sanctuary does not go on a sale very often. And like I said, if you're going to get it, wait for a sale. I did, unless the words 2D Souls-like are music to your ears, in which case, just go for it and pay full price. But anyways, guys, I think that's about it. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys next time, whenever that may be. Bye-bye.